What if the pain of letting go isn't just an ending, but a sacred initiation? Carl Jung believed that true transformation begins the moment you dare to release what no longer serves you. This isn't just about moving on. It's about dying to an old version of yourself so something deeper can awaken. And spiritually, this process changes everything. We've all been there, clinging to relationships, identities, or dreams long after they've run their course. But what if this struggle isn't just emotional baggage? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist and mystic, saw letting go as one of the most profound spiritual acts a person can experience. Jung taught that every ending is a hidden beginning. When you decide to move on, you're not just changing circumstances, you're confronting the shadows of your psyche, dismantling old illusions, and making space for a higher calling. This is the alchemy of the soul, where loss becomes wisdom and surrender leads to rebirth. In this video, we'll explore Jung's mystical perspective on what happens spiritually when you choose to release the past. We'll uncover the hidden forces at work, from ego death and synchronicity to the emergence of your truest self. By the end, you'll see why moving on isn't failure, but a sacred step toward wholeness. At the heart of Carl Jung's work lies the principle of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. This isn't about self-improvement in the conventional sense. It's a descent into the depths of your own psyche, where fragmented parts of yourself wait to be reclaimed. Individuation demands that you confront what you've ignored, heal what you've suppressed, and, most crucially, release what no longer belongs to you. But why is letting go so difficult? Because the past isn't just memory, it's energy. Jung's concept of the shadow self explains why we cling to old wounds, toxic relationships, or outgrown versions of ourselves. The shadow is the unconscious reservoir of everything we deny: our shame, our unmet desires, even our unrealized potential. When we refuse to move on, it's often because some part of us still identifies with the pain, as if losing it would mean losing ourselves. The shadow whispers, "This is who you are," and we obey, mistaking familiarity for truth. Yet stagnation is a spiritual crisis. Jung warned that refusing to let go keeps us trapped in a psychological loop, replaying the same stories without growth. Every attachment we refuse to release becomes a chain, tethering us to illusions. But when we finally choose to move forward, something extraordinary happens. We initiate a death and rebirth cycle within the psyche. The old self, the one that clung to suffering, that believed it was unworthy or defined by its past, begins to dissolve. In its place, a more authentic version of you emerges, one aligned not with yesterday's wounds, but with the soul's unfolding purpose. This is why moving on isn't just healthy, it's holy. It's the moment you stop bargaining with the past and start surrendering to a greater intelligence within you. The friction of letting go isn't a sign you're doing it wrong, it's proof you're doing the work. And as Jung reminds us, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. The act of release isn't an ending, it's the first step toward claiming that choice. Carl Jung saw every true transformation as a kind of death, not of the body, but of the ego. He called this ego death, the moment when the identity you've carefully constructed, the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, begins to crumble. This isn't destruction, it's liberation. The ego clings to control, to the illusion of permanence, but the soul knows that to become whole, parts of us must fall away. When you decide to move on from a relationship, a career, or an old version of yourself, you are, in essence, allowing a spiritual death to take place. And from that death, something new is born. This process mirrors one of the most universal archetypes in human consciousness, the cycle of death and rebirth. Ancient myths and religions are filled with this motif: Osiris dismembered and resurrected, the phoenix consumed by flames only to rise anew, Christ crucified and reborn. These stories aren't just metaphors, they are maps of the psyche. Jung believed that when we face an ending, whether it's the loss of love, a shattered dream, or the collapse of an old belief, we are participating in the same sacred pattern. The universe does not abandon us in these moments. It prepares us for initiation. Dreams often reveal this process in symbolic language. Jungian analysts frequently encounter dreams of funerals, floods, or collapsing buildings during major life transitions. These images aren't omens of disaster. They are the unconscious signaling that an old structure is dissolving so a truer one can emerge. One of Jung's own patients, struggling to leave a suffocating marriage, dreamt of her childhood home burning down. At first, she woke in terror. But in analysis, she realized the house was her old life. The fire wasn't destroying her, it was clearing space for her to rebuild. This is the paradox at the heart of spiritual growth. We must lose to find, die to live, release to receive. The ego fears this cycle because it cannot imagine what lies beyond the death. But the soul knows. It has done this before. When you finally let go, you aren't just walking away from something, you are walking toward the self you were always meant to become. When you commit to moving on, truly, deeply, beyond just words, the universe begins to respond in mysterious ways. Carl Jung called these moments synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defy logical explanation but carry profound personal significance. A song that seems to answer your unspoken question, a stranger who echoes your thoughts, a book that falls open to the exact page you needed to read. These are not random accidents. They are whispers from a deeper intelligence, confirming that you are on the right path, even when it feels uncertain. Synchronicity is the language of the soul, and when you decide to release the past, it often speaks louder than ever. These signs and symbols are not arbitrary. They emerge from what Jung termed the collective unconscious, the vast, hidden reservoir of human experience that connects us all. Certain images, butterflies, bridges, storms, crossroads, appear again and again in dreams, myths, and waking life during times of transition because they are archetypal markers of transformation. A woman leaving a toxic relationship might suddenly notice owls everywhere, an ancient symbol of wisdom and transition. A man quitting his unfulfilling job might stumble upon a documentary about phoenixes the same night he dreams of fire. These are not mere coincidences. They are the psyche's way of mirroring your inner shift in the outer world, a divine reassurance that you are not alone in this unfolding. Yet the challenge lies in trusting the process, especially when fear arises. The mind craves guarantees, but the soul operates in mysteries. Jung warned that we often misinterpret or dismiss synchronicities because we expect guidance to come in grand, obvious gestures. But the universe speaks in subtleties, a gut feeling, a recurring number, an unexpected encounter. The key is to release the need for absolute control and instead cultivate sacred curiosity. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to show me? How does this symbol relate to where I am? The more you honor these whispers, the more they amplify, weaving a tapestry of guidance that leads you toward your next becoming. Carl Jung often turned to alchemy as a metaphor for psychological transformation, not the literal pursuit of turning lead into gold, but the sacred art of turning pain into wisdom. In ancient alchemical texts, the prima materia, or base substance, had to endure dissolution, putrefaction, and purification before achieving its highest form. Similarly, our most difficult emotions, grief, betrayal, shame, are not obstacles to enlightenment. They are its raw materials. When you decide to move on, you are not running from suffering, you are agreeing to transmute it. This is the alchemist's work, to sit with the fire of your own heartbreak until it reveals its hidden gifts. This process inevitably leads through what mystics call the dark night of the soul, a period of profound disorientation and despair that precedes rebirth. Jung understood this phase not as a failure, but as a necessary dismantling. The ego, faced with the loss of what once defined it, cries out in protest. Who am I without this relationship? This identity? This dream? The dark night answers with silence, forcing you to confront the terrifying, liberating truth. You are not any of those things. You are the awareness beneath them. Like the alchemist's vessel, you must endure the heat of uncertainty until the dross of illusion burns away, leaving only what is real. Yet so many of us interrupt this alchemy by refusing to fully feel our pain. We numb it with distractions, rationalize it with false positivity, or bury it in new attachments. Jung warned that unresolved emotions do not disappear, they retreat into the shadow, where they fester as bitterness, chronic anxiety, or self-sabotage. Every time you avoid the depths of your sorrow, you stall your spiritual evolution. The paradox is this: the only way out is through. When you finally allow yourself to fully experience the emotion, to let it move through you like a storm, you break its spell. What once felt like a prison becomes a passage. This is why moving on is never just about changing circumstances. It's about changing your relationship to your own suffering. The alchemist knows that lead contains the potential for gold, but only if subjected to the flame. Likewise, your pain holds the blueprint for your liberation, if you dare to meet it with curiosity instead of fear. As Jung wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The dark night is not your enemy. It is the crucible in which your next self is forged. When the old falls away, when relationships end, dreams dissolve, or identities crumble, what remains is not emptiness, but potential. Carl Jung saw this moment as sacred, the birth of the renewed self, the one that had been waiting beneath the surface of all your former roles and masks. This is not about crafting a better version of who you were, but discovering who you truly are when no longer defined by attachment. The process is less like building and more like unveiling, as if you are remembering rather than becoming. Jung's work presents a fascinating tension between destiny and free will. He believed in the existence of a personal myth, an innate pattern within each soul that seeks expression across a lifetime. Yet this destiny is not fixed. It requires your conscious participation. You are both the sculptor and the marble, the dreamer and the dream. Moving on, then, is not merely a choice to leave something behind, but a choice to align with a deeper calling. The universe may set the stage, but you must play your part. This is why spiritual growth demands both surrender and action, the willingness to let go of control, paired with the courage to step into the unknown. So how do we navigate this delicate balance in practical terms? Begin with sacred pause. In the space between release and rebirth, resist the urge to immediately fill the void. This is where journaling, meditation, or time in nature can help you discern the difference between ego's impulses and soul's whispers. Next, engage in symbolic acts, burn old letters, create art, or perform a ritual to mark the transition. Jung understood that the unconscious responds to symbolism. These acts solidify inner shifts. Finally, cultivate patience. The new self does not emerge on demand. Like a seed in winter, it requires gestation. Pay attention to synchronicities, dreams, and newfound passions. They are clues to the life that is trying to find you. As we've journeyed through Carl Jung's wisdom, one truth stands clear. Moving on is not an ending, but a sacred threshold. We've explored how letting go initiates a spiritual death and rebirth, where the ego's attachments dissolve to make space for the soul's emergence. We've witnessed the universe respond through synchronicity, guiding you toward alignment. And we've seen how even the darkest emotional pain, when faced with courage, becomes the alchemical fire for transformation. This is not just psychology, It is the mystery of becoming. Now, I invite you to turn this insight inward. Ask yourself, what is it time for me to release? Not just on the surface, but at the deepest level. What belief, relationship, or version of yourself have you outgrown? Remember, this isn't about loss. It's about making room for what wants to arrive. The call to move on is not a punishment. It's an invitation to step into the life that has been waiting for you all along. If this exploration resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you discover about yourself while watching? Share in the comments below. Your story might be the sign someone else needs. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the hidden layers of psychology, spirituality, and transformation, just like today's dive into Jung's work.